Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing Podcast. I'm Kieran McCourt, and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ryan McLaughlin.
Well, guys, we're glad to be back. It's been a long time. We've been away, and we've got one of Matchroom's finest on with us today. Please welcome WBC silver featherweight and Aussie Olympian Skye Nicolson. Skye, how you been?
I'm good. I'm really good, thank you.
Did you have was it the zone thing last night or 2 nights ago?
2 nights ago, yeah.
How was that?
It was good, actually. I don't normally love those kinds of things, but it was good. A bit random on a Monday night, a red carpet event, but no, there was definitely hype around the fight, around fight week, and no, it was a good buzz. It was good to be there.
What is it exactly you need to? Do you just sort of go and show your face and just sort of do interviews and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's a good chance just to get your face out there. Lots of media outlets there, obviously. But the whole Matchroom stable were invited, and I mainly went to support the show, to support Fight Week. But yeah, it was good. It was good.
Having like an Anthony Joshua fight week as well. It's one of the biggest, so I'm sure the red carpet settings, and then Charlie Parsons running about thinking he's the main man.
Yeah, the main reason I wanted to go is because I wanted to get a photo with AJ, because I've never had a photo with AJ. I've never actually met him.
Did you get it?
No.
Oh, fuck's sake, Skye.
Yeah. I had my intention set. It was to get a photo with AJ, blow up Instagram. Didn't happen.
Did you see him at all?
From a distance, but he was just like being smothered with media the whole time, so I left him alone.
What boxers would you get like starstruck when you see?
I was very starstruck when I met Canelo.
Yeah.
You got a photo with Canelo, didn't you?
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that was my my debut fight week as well, so that was really cool.
Colin got very starstruck when he met you. He said he could barely speak and stuff.
Skye knows I broke down. I couldn't speak. I actually met Canelo at the same time, so it's sweet.
We name drop there, but
oh yeah, classic. Well, I'm just waiting to see how long it'll take for him to mention IFL, because Skye, he sort of threw us to the side a little bit now that he's got his paycheck off Coogan.
Yeah, yeah, he's the IFL guy now. You guys are just
we're peasants.
Yeah, the side gig.
Do you know what as well, Skye? Like what every guest we have on, we like to bring it back to the start. And obviously, you're from one of the most beautiful places in the world, in the Gold Coast. What was that like growing up there?
Amazing. I feel like the more time you spend away and abroad, like there's amazing, beautiful places around the world, but nothing quite feels like home, and nothing quite feels like the Gold Coast. And it's definitely made me very grateful to have been able to grow up in such an amazing place. Beautiful weather. Australians are very, very lucky to be born there and to live there. So no, I'm very grateful for my upbringing back home, and I think that's definitely where I'll always settle. But I've made my home away from home here in the UK, and I'm loving it. I don't love the weather, but no, Australia will always be home.
What was your first day like in England? The first day, as soon as you set foot, what was the feeling?
I've been to the UK quite a few times. My parents are actually British.
Right.
Yeah, so I have been to the UK, and I obviously came here with training camps and things over the years. But when I actually signed with Matchroom and decided I was moving here, and it all happened very fast. I came here with the intention that I would just do my training camps here, and I would still go home quite frequently. But obviously I had a very busy first year, so I was basically in training camp all year. So I feel like I live here now. I've probably spent 3 or 4 weeks in Australia out of the past 16, 17 months. So yeah, it kind of just naturally happened this way, because obviously I'm fighting quite regularly. So I'm always in camp, my team's here. And obviously when I'm not boxing, I'm working on shows as well. That was a big part of my signing with Matchroom, was to be working on commentary and working for DAZN and Matchroom Media as well. So it's definitely kept me very busy, that's for sure.
do you plan out the times whenever you go home, or it just happens like you might get a week off
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, I'll go home?
Not really. Like, I guess I kind of knew last year, so I was going to have 3 fights quite close back to back and then go home. And then we ended up making it 4 fights. So instead of going home after my fight on the Taylor Serrano card in New York, I stayed and did another, I think like 6 or 8 weeks, and then went home after that. So I went home after my 4th fight, which was about 6 months I'd done in the UK. Went home for a few weeks and came back, started training. My next fight actually was in Australia, but it wasn't until October. So I came back, trained for that, went back to Australia, boxed. And the plan was to have my 6th fight. Yeah, the fight that I just had in February. We were meant to have my 6th fight in December. So I came back after my October fight in Australia and started training. And then they couldn't get me out. There was no slots on any of the cards to get me out before Christmas. So I went home early December, had like my Christmas last week of November, first week of December with my family, and then came back, started camp the second week of December and trained through Christmas to fight in February in New York.
You see, in terms of the actual culture, though, like obviously Australia is way more like picturesque. It's gorgeous, like the weather's amazing. But like we have a load of mates because like there's so many Irish obviously in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many British in Australia, and then there's loads of Australians in like London.
Yeah.
So like, do you find like the culture is quite similar, the banter and
Very,
stuff?
yeah, very, very similar. My best friends back home are actually Irish as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
They've been living out there. They've been living in Brisbane for about 4 years now. Connor Wallace, you probably know him. He's a boxer.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend Kalina. Yeah, they're my best friends back home. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of similarities, like pubs, sport. Sorry, that was Tito.
Give
Clip it.
boxing shout out.
Do you know what it is? I've got a
Tito
chair
wanted
as well. It's squeaky.
Tito wanted to come say hi.
Nice.
We feature. Is that your dog over?
That's my dog. So I actually got him over here. So that's another reason I basically live here now. I'm stuck.
Okay.
Mum cried when I FaceTimed her and said I got a dog because she's like, oh my God, you're never coming home.
Guy, I'm gonna drop the IFL ball here because I know these two are straight on it all. He's gonna start talking about IFL. But me and you spoke about this on an IFL interview once, and it didn't really get to go into depth about it. But you said to me something along the lines of you didn't really like boxing growing up in terms of watching it. It wasn't something that you watched a lot. Talk to me a bit about that, because it's strange that obviously now you've turned out as a professional boxer.
Yeah, well, I've always grown up around boxing. So mostly amateur boxing, in saying that. I grew up at amateur boxing shows pretty much every weekend. So I kind of naturally started boxing because of that. And sorry, I'm just going to let Tito go away. He's distracting me. But honestly, like, because sorry. I think because I was around boxing so much, like I started boxing when I was 12 years old. So I was in the boxing gym Monday to Friday. I was at amateur boxing shows on Saturdays. Like my family, every like family event and dinner was talking about boxing. I think the last thing I wanted to do when I had some chill time was watch boxing. So I didn't really watch much boxing at all until I turned pro. I studied a lot of opponents and stuff as I obviously started representing Australia and was boxing in major international tournaments. I was studying opponents that I would potentially fight, but I would never go and watch fights just because I enjoyed watching boxing. But now I'm like obsessed with it. Like I've watched more boxing in the past 12 months than I've watched in my whole life. And that's purely because I love watching it, and I feel like I learn from watching it as well. I like watching like videos of boxing where they've like slowed things down and they're actually explaining what the boxers are doing, the way they set traps, things like that. So No, I'm quite an obsessed boxing fan now, which is nice. Like, even there was like 2 or 3 boxing shows on the other night, all at the same time, and I was literally just flipping between all 3 shows, watching a bit of everyone. But yeah, I didn't really show much interest. The big fights, the Mayweather fights, the Canelo fights, we would normally like have a social gathering, and I would obviously watch it, but I was never like excited about it. I couldn't give you a prediction on how the fight was going to go because I didn't watch boxing.
When you said boxing was instilled into you around your family, how did that come about, and how did you first end up in a boxing gym?
So, my older brothers boxed. They're a lot older than me, so mum and dad started young, and had me. I'm the youngest, so they had me a lot later, and so my oldest brother is 27 years older than me. So him and Jamie, they were 2 years apart. They started boxing at 12 and 14, which would have been in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And Jamie ended up having probably 300 amateur fights. He won Australia's first ever men's world championship medal. He got bronze when he was 17 years old at the elite men's world championships. Commonwealth bronze medal, went to the Olympic Games in Barcelona. So obviously my whole family was very involved in his boxing career. He actually did turn pro. I think he had like 7 pro fights. He was only 22, but he passed away in a car accident in 1994. And then I was born in 95, so I never actually met Jamie. But I obviously grew up hearing all about the amazing things he did. And he was naturally a role model for me, and someone I looked up to very much. I never really thought that I would box, but my family stayed involved in boxing, I think, as almost as a way of staying close to Jamie in a way. My oldest brother, Alan, is a boxing coach, and he actually taught me to box when I started training when I was 12. So he was my first coach. He's still a coach now, an amateur boxing coach. So that's kind of how it all came about. There wasn't many girls boxing when I started. I started boxing in 2008. And I boxed the same girls a lot of the time because there was only a few of us. It was hard to find 12, 13-year-old girls 15, 16 years ago that were around the same weight and stuff as well. So I boxed a lot of the same girls over and over again. We all just kept fighting each other. Sometimes we'd win, sometimes we'd lose. But I think that's what kind of kept me in the sport, luckily. It's huge now. There's so many girls boxing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was how it started. I tried lots of different sports. Like, mum and dad always had me in sport, and I always did school sport, but I was always like really average. I was never really that good at anything. And I'm quite a competitive person. So when I found boxing and I had like a bit of natural talent, and I'd get told that I was good at it, that was kind of my driving motivation to keep going with it. And obviously I liked winning. So yeah, that I never stopped. I could probably tell you right now, I've never been out of a boxing gym since I was 12 years old for more than 2 or 3 weeks maximum. I've just been obsessed.
Skye, you touched there about like obviously the growth of women's boxing, and younger it was pretty much non-existent. Obviously we're all Irish, so we're like Katie Taylor fanboys. Like, at what point did Katie Taylor come onto your radar, being like a boxer over there?
When I was about, I'm going to say 14. So I'd been boxing 2 years. I was actually on a family holiday in the UK, and I have cousins in Skerries, and they actually knew people that ran the gym where Katie trained, and they had organised for me to go and meet her and train with her at the gym. And we showed up at this gym, and all the lights are off, no one was there. And my cousin's like, I can't believe this. He's like, talked up this whole thing, and I was like, I'm meeting Katie Taylor, and I'm all excited. And they had like accidentally double booked whatever, and she was at like a sports awards night, probably winning Sportswoman of the Year or something. I don't know. This would have been 2010, and maybe even 2009. And they got, my cousin got hold of them, and they said, come down to whatever, the community center, wherever it was where she was at this awards dinner. She's going to come out and meet Skye. So she actually came, she left the awards night and came out to the car park and just met me, got a photo with me, asked me about my boxing, and gave me the time of day. And I've like been the biggest Katie Taylor fan ever since, because I was just like, obviously it made my trip. And she didn't have to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like
100%, yeah.
She was Woman of the Hour upstairs in some award ceremony, and she came out and talked to this kid from Australia who'd had 10-15 fights, and looked up to her. And I feel like, yeah, that was the moment where I was like, I want to be like her.
It's funny you say that, because I was sitting across from you at Serrano Cruise, and you and Katie Taylor were just in conversation, sitting beside each other the whole time.
Yeah.
So it came full circle. Was that the first time you've actually spent time with her since, or have you had opportunities?
So we've got that photo. I can send it to you if you want. I've got that photo of Katie and I. And then I'm going to say about 6 years later, 2016, we both got bronze at the Women's World Championships in 2 different weight divisions. And we were lining up for the podium presentations together, and I got my next picture with her there. So 6 years on, it went from me meeting my idol as a child, as a young girl looking up to her, to then lining up at the podium at the Women's World Championship 6 years later. And then she turned pro after that. That was the year she turned pro. And about 6 years after that, I would say, or nearabouts, I announced signing with Matchroom, and she was there, and I got my next picture with her there. And then I was on her undercard in my 3rd fight. So it's kind of been like a progression.
Are you just gonna get a picture with her every time you see her now?
Basically, yeah.
Skye and Katie selfie at the cinema.
She always gives you the time of day. If you go and have a chat with her, she's a very down to earth person, as I'm sure you guys know. Obviously, sitting with her at the Serrano Cruise fight, it was nice just to chat in a more relaxed way, because we were sat there together for the last couple of fights, and yeah, she's cool.
You must be having to pinch yourself. Like, what's your family's reaction? Because you've fought in MSG twice now. Like, you've obviously signed with we're all Matchroom fanboys. Like, but you're signed for the biggest like promotional company in the world. Like, what is their reaction to everything?
You know, it's actually been amazing. Like, when I bowed out of the Olympics in 2021, straight away it was like Paris 2024, like tunnel vision. I'm going to win the Olympic gold medal. That's my goal. Turning pro it was just never something I had any interest in. It was never a goal or a dream for me to turn pro and win belts and all that. Like, I think I was just so ingrained in the amateur system, and it's just all I ever knew. And I kind of, like, my parents were always not against me turning pro, but didn't really encourage it. And have always just been about representing Australia, representing your country, winning medals. So I was really nervous when I had to call them and say, I'm actually not going to bother with the Commonwealth Games. I'm turning professional, because they were all really excited. The Commonwealth Games were in Birmingham. I was the reigning Commonwealth Games gold medalist, and they were really excited to see me go and like get double gold. They were going to come to Birmingham. So they were a little bit like, what? Why? What are you doing? No, that wasn't the plan. But they love it. Like, they've come to 4 out of my 6 pro fights. And they're just like my biggest fans. They love it. They're honestly, I'm pretty sure now, if I said to them, oh, like, I'm still really on the fence about if I'm going to go back for the Olympics, if I'm going to do Paris. I was like, no, don't bother. We love what you're doing. This is great. Like,
they're so
they
vocal
love
too.
it.
I heard you at the weigh-in. Was it the weigh-in in New York maybe? And your dad was screaming something, and you were going nuts at him after, and I was
Oh
just
my
laughing
God.
like they really are really into it, like, aren't they?
Yeah. And Dad can be quite painful. But I was doing an interview and he's literally talking like right next to my head that I could not even like hear myself think. And I was like, Dad, I'm in an interview. Like, can you go away? But he's just like so overexcited with it all. Like, no, it's good. I'm very lucky. Like a lot of, especially girls, might not get that same support. But I'm very lucky that they've always supported whatever I wanted to do, even when it wasn't necessarily what they wanted.
Is Paris 2024 still like up in the air, whether you don't know whether to do it or not?
Yeah, it is actually. It's really hard, you know, because when it's been your dream for so long, and I absolutely love what I'm doing now. Like, I have no regrets about turning professional. I love what I'm doing. I've got new goals. I love my team. I love what we're doing in the gym. I'm improving and learning, and it's all new and exciting. But of course, there's a part of me that's still like, I don't want to have regrets down the line where I didn't go back and try and right the wrongs of what happened in Tokyo. It's hard. It's really hard because at the same time, I know like you can't just decide, oh, I'm going to be an Olympic gold medalist. Like it's one of the hardest things you can do, especially in boxing. And I feel like you need to be all in, 100% all in. Same with if I want to go undisputed or I want to win world titles at multiple weight divisions. It's not just something I can be like, oh, I'm just going to pop over to the amateurs and I'm going to pop back to the pros. I feel like I need to be 100% all in whichever way I go. And I'm really struggling with that at the moment, but it's definitely a decision that I do need to officially make by June, July, because that's when the qualifying process will start in August for the Olympics. So we're going to try and squeeze in 2 pro fights, and then it's D-Day, it's decision time. So,
but speaking on that, obviously they are sort of 2 different sports, and
yeah.
luckily you're not that far into your pro career, so you probably could adjust back. Like we've had sort of boxers on before, and we've asked them like, you right now, like even some of them being world champions, we would say sort of like, you right now, if you get in with your amateur self, your Olympian self, over 4 rounds, say, like what would happen? And a lot of them say, oh, they would box the head off me over 4 rounds. You know what I mean? Like, do you worry that your style's maybe adapted too much?
I mean, even just in this camp that I'm in right now, like since my last fight, I'm a completely different fighter. Like, I cannot tell you. I'm so excited. Like, really, really excited to show everyone in my next fight, because like you wouldn't recognize me if you walked in the gym and I was sparring now. You wouldn't think it was me, and I'm really excited about that because we've changed my style a lot. We're keeping everything I'm good at, but we've just added so much new stuff, and I'm just absolutely loving it. I think the men and women, it's a little bit different. I feel like the women can get away with going back a little bit more than the men can, because the women's pro boxing is still so fast paced with the 2-minute rounds. To go back to the amateurs to do 3 threes, it's not quite as an extreme difference as going from like 12 threes to 3 threes. Like 8 and 10 twos to 3 threes. It's not as big a difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But do you feel like there would be any temptation to sort of like push for a stoppage or something when you're sort of used to like as well, you'd sort of be adjusting to like the difference in atmosphere. I know, to be fair, Olympics, the atmosphere is probably class.
Yeah.
But like a pro fight, it's you have the crowd roaring for blood, and
yeah,
2 different things.
I feel like a lot of the outside noise doesn't really affect me, either way. But I do think like a lot of the new stuff I'm doing, you can't do in the amateurs. Like I am doing a lot more tricks, and I guess like slipping shots, going under shots, a lot of things that they pull up a lot in the amateurs for putting your head too low and keeping your hand out for too long, things like that, things that you do in the pros that you can't do in the amateurs. So I think there is deterrence to not do it, but at the same time I think I would adapt quite comfortably, obviously, because I've done amateur boxing for 15 years. I've been a pro for 12 months. Like, I think it would be quite easy for me to get back to boxing more like an amateur. I don't feel like my style's changed that much, but in saying that, it has changed a lot, especially in the last like couple of months. So I don't know, it's a very hard decision to make, but I know that I'll make the best decision for me at this point in time, and I'll live with that decision. You know what, I could go back. I could go do LA Olympics and not do Paris if I really wanted to.
Are you going to announce it now on the pod?
Yeah, Skye Nicolson, LA Olympics, not Paris. That's
yeah,
it.
skipping Paris, but maybe 2028.
You
Nah,
just fancy the heat, don't you?
we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know at this point in time, but the decision will be made after my fight in June.
Skye, before we wrap this up, a couple of things we want to ask you. So I think Kieran's got a bit of a weird question for you, to be fair, but I'll ask you first. Taylor Cameron, what's your prediction?
You know what? I'm always happy to give predictions when I know about both fighters, and I know both these girls well, but this really is a hard fight to call. I honestly think it's going to be who is their best self on the night. I feel like it's a very even 50-50 fight. I think they've both got great boxing skills. They're both relentless. They're both willing to die in there. But at the same time, they've both got amazing boxing skills. Obviously, Katie's coming up in weight. She's getting in with the bigger, stronger girl. But then she's also got the home advantage. She's going to have all of Ireland behind her. I think that's going to lift Katie as well. But this is Chantel's moment that she's obviously trained her whole life for as well. It's a hard one. It's honestly, if I had to give a prediction, I think being Katie's homecoming, I think it's going to lift her, and we're going to see a stellar performance from Katie. But either way, it's going to be very competitive. I think everyone's going to want to see a number 2. That could even be a trilogy. That could be talked about forever. I'm very excited for that fight.
Okay, so it wasn't me that came up with this question, but apparently I have to ask it. So we had Ebony on, right, and we sort of talked about like weird requests you get from fans and stuff. Obviously, she gets inundated with them. She makes a fortune off it as well. But we wondered if you basically, are your DMs like a scary place, or
Kieran's wondering what he can ask you for in his DMs.
You know what? The DMs are such a mixed bag. You just never know.
Yeah, we'll do something really quick here, right? Go on
Yeah.
your DMs right now and read your last 3 requests out to us.
Okay. I think I can,
As
think
long
I
as
can
they're
do that.
PG and you're happy enough to do that.
I hope I'm not
Alright,
in there.
let's have a look. Let's have a look.
This would be hilarious.
Quick,
Kieran's
Kieran,
in top
unsend yours because I don't want to embarrass you on here.
Airplane mode, fuck.
All right.
No, but I mean, yeah, I can only imagine it must be a dark place in there at times. Like,
Yeah. If they've sent a disappearing photo, I don't even open it.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you that much.
Oh, God. Noted, Kieran.
Honestly, I get sent like love poems.
oh, yeah, that's pretty.
Where people have like personalized poems to me.
Wow.
Is it usually like, do you click on their profiles? Is it usually like British people or like?
A lot of British people. A lot of the British guys are more like, please, can I take you out for a drink? What like, where in London are you based?
That sounds like Kieran.
What does a man have to do? What does a man have to do to take you out? Like, that's usually like the British ones. And then there's like the Eastern European guys, or a lot of like the like Indian, Asian kind of countries where they're like, I need to marry you. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever laid my eyes on. And I'm like, I read them sometimes and I think, man, how many people did you send that to? You're just like trying to get a reply.
Do you ever reply to anyone? No.
Nah. Unless it's like someone either that I've met or that I know people that know them, and I want to actually have a conversation with that person. But for the most part, no. Yeah, there you go. You in London, how does one take you to dinner? How are you so perfect? The perfect girl doesn't exist. ...
You're that smooth.
That was actually not bad.
That's my my burner account. Like,
Reply to that guy and say, listen to Brawl Boxing.
One guy messaged me last week. He said, "Hello, my wife is fighting on Sunday. I'm her coach. She is literally in love with you. She is your super fan. I know you are famous and you may never read my message, but I need to try. Could you please message her and say good luck? I would be grateful for life." So I messaged his wife and said good luck for her fight. And I'll try and get her response up for you.
We'll end it on this note.
She said, oh my God, I don't believe it. Your message. You are my idol. For a moment, I thought it was a joke from my husband. I still can't believe my eyes. I've bled and I've cried, but I swear to you, this evening reading your message that I still don't believe it can be true. I cried. Thank you with all my heart. You are truly my idol. On Sunday, I will make my entrance with this shirt similar to yours. I love you and thank you again with all my heart, and sent like a picture of like an NBA singlet, kind of like the one I walked out to in New York.
Oh my God, that's adorable. That sounds like your message to Katie Taylor, Skye.
It was a lot. He then
is
screenshotted my message saying good luck for your fight and posted it on her Instagram.
Guy, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate your time today. We'll look forward to having a second episode soon, and maybe we'll announce your Paris Olympic date on that one.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank
Cheers,
you very
Skye.
much.
Thanks a million.
Thank you so much, guys.
Appreciate it.
See you later.
See you later.
Yeah.